So welcome to the Pottery Student Podcast by Marvelous Mud Pottery Studio. And I am Rachelle Eason, and I'm here with Diana Harrison.
Hello.
We are so excited to talk to you about one of our favorite glazes. And it's Winterwood by Mako. And it holds kind of a special place in my heart. It's actually up there with my love for purple, and if you have noticed around the studio, I have a deep love for purple. And I actually believe that any question that you ever ask can be answered with the word purple. But in our glaze studio, sometimes I change that to say any question you have about glazes can be answered with Winterwood. And so let's talk about why Winterwood is so much fun. First of all, what do you like about Winterwood before we start getting into all these little samples that are fun?
I love that no matter what you mix it with, it looks good. No matter what you put it on, it looks good. It's just a very versatile glaze that just makes every piece, it just adds to every piece.
It really does. So Winterwood, I'm trying to find one that doesn't have all of these little things, and actually I have some up here. So these are straight from my kitchen cabinet. This is a bowl that I eat out of all the time. This is Winterwood Glaze without any drippy or anything like that on it. Somebody had mentioned it looked like cookies and cream ice cream.
Oh,
isn't that fun?
That's probably all I get.
It's really good to eat ice cream out of this bowl too, and I'm vegan, so I eat vegan ice cream, and I love it. Okay, this is the companion mug that goes with that. Now, if you know me, I don't do many pairings or couplings or matchings, but I really like this combo. This idea of the cookies and cream is really kind of neat because of the composition of the glaze. The glaze has this kind of beige base. So I believe it's alabaster that is by Mako that is the base to Winterwood. And then these little brown spots are actually crystals. So when you glaze with it and it gets to that high heat of 21 to 2200 degrees, those crystals, which are glass, melt, and then they start to move around, or they drip, or they make this little speckly in them. So that's what makes Winterwood so much fun, are those crystals. So what I did for my students, and Diana is in our membership classes as well, a lot of students have a little fear of glazing. Not only are they concerned about glazes running off the piece and getting stuck onto what we call cookies. They're like little coasters that we put under pieces, so that if something drips, it doesn't drip on the kiln shelves, it drips on these coasters. But also the combinations of them. And what I wanted to show this glazing tutorial time with our students is that Winterwood is kind of one of those fail-safe glazes that is so versatile. So there's a couple other glazes that function in a similar way. C-Note by Mako does, Peppered Plum by Mako does also. So what I did was create two kind of lines of glaze testing, and one had Winterwood all through them. And then I did the same type of glazing, and I put C-Note in place of Winterwood. So that's what the difference is between these two. And so these in particular have Raspberry Mist by Mako as well. And then above the Raspberry Mist, on this one, there's Winterwood. And on this one that Diana's holding, there is C-Note. And it's pretty cool to see how the two differ a little bit. I have to look at my little cheat sheet because I did something a little different on both of them. There's some light flux. Light flux is also by Mako that is just dotted around in some areas, and that's what's making this drip go down around. But isn't that pretty cool?
Oh, it's so pretty. And I was looking on the C-Note. It's getting a really pretty little purple color here, just a little tinge of purple in some of those areas. So pretty.
Just that little kind of, just a little spark is really neat. Yeah. One of the things we talked about in class this morning is that C-Note, the base color is actually called Norse Blue. And you can actually make C-Note by using Norse Blue as your base and putting Winterwood on top. It comes out almost the same. So that's kind of a fun thing too. But the idea is that, especially when you're in the beginning of glazing, is that you take a couple of what we call recipes and you just variate out some of the parts of those recipes, and that way you get to learn glazing a little bit more. So even though this is raspberry mist and then Winterwood and some light flux, and this is raspberry mist and C-Note and light flux, you could actually change out that raspberry mist for something like eggplant. And then again, do your Winterwood around that and have a little bit of flux, and there you go. It's the same recipe, and you're learning how glazes merge together, how they react with each other, how they behave, but you have enough of a difference that it doesn't look the same either. And so that would be similar using C-Note. So again, instead of raspberry mist, we have eggplant, and then we have C-Note with some flux behind it. So it's a pretty fun little recipe to play around with.
They're all so beautiful. I love, oh wow.
How pretty that is.
In there, yeah.
So here's the thing with Winterwood. Winterwood by itself is extremely stable. That's why you have a bowl like this where the Winterwood's not moving at all. But as soon as Winterwood makes contact with another glaze, it's going to run like crazy. And so if you look at what Diana is holding, you can see that it even ran off the bottom. There's some issue right there because that C-Note or that Winterwood came in contact with another glaze and made it run so much. So again, Winterwood on the bottom there, Winterwood on the bottom here. The difference is that it's overlapped with the glaze here. Here it just meets the glaze. There's not really any overlapping at all. So that's one of the things with Winterwood that you have to be careful of, is that if it touches another glaze, it's gonna run like crazy. But it's really fun to play around with, and it can go under glazes, it can go over other glazes, as long as you have room to let it run. And so we did, we do have room on something like this as long as we kept it up here, especially here. This is a little bit bigger of a piece, so we could let it run. So that's why you could layer with other pieces. These I absolutely love. This one actually I think is my favorite of the whole group. This is C-Note around the bottom, and this is Winterwood around the bottom. No, sorry, grabbed the wrong one. This one is Winterwood around the bottom. And then there's just a band of mulberry that's from Mako. It's an Mako Celadon. There's a band of mulberry around that. And then there's a band of, again, some flux. And then the top color is Ancient Copper by Mako. So they're not really overlapping that much, although you see this drip. That drip was caused by the flux there, so I forced a drip on it. I didn't want those bottom colors to drip that much because then it would go off. I was lucky on this one that it did not go all the way off. So again, the tip is that Winterwood by itself will not move, but once it touches something else, it's going to move. Do you have any questions about that or comments about how those work together?
I just love them all. I'm like trying to which one do I comment on first? Like, I'm with you. This is probably my favorite.
And the fun is that there's actually two colors there that you don't see, but those make such a difference in the way they drip. You can see a little bit of it, that mulberry right there, that purple.
You can just see it in there. And then this one you got, does this have the C-Note in it?
Yep, so that was C-Note on the bottom, and Stone Denim by Mako is on the inside and around the outside top.
But I think you brought up some really good points, especially when you're trying to learn glazing. It is so overwhelming. But Winterwood is a good place to start experimenting, because look at the variations you got just on a handful of pieces.
Exactly. And so somebody can take one of these so-called recipes, and I put 4 in this tutorial that I'm teaching my members today. They're actually 8 if you want to be technical about it, but 4 using Winterwood and 4 of the same recipes using C-Note. And you could actually recreate these recipes over and over and over and over and over again just by changing one element of them and get something completely different. And so, and I always pick, in these recipes at least, I'm picking the interior color to be the solid color that I used on the outside. So for example, raspberry mist on the outside is also the liner color. Eggplant on the outside is also the liner color. These have the Winterwood was on the bottom and C-Note was on the bottom of this one, but Stone Denim was around, or is around the rim, and that's what the inside is too. And so you can kind of see these differences. I want to talk to you about the difference in color in a minute, but just by moving those around a little bit, you even have a different outcome. So just playing around, you only need one formula. You could do it 30, 40, 50 times by just changing one of the variables in it, and you're going to get different results. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I don't really want to get into kiln firing right now, but these are both raspberry mist in the inside and the outside. The only difference is that this one's Winterwood and this one's C-Note, and they were in the same kiln load, but you can see the difference of color.
Yes.
And so kilns have different hot spots in them and different temperatures in them. So depending on where your piece is, you will get different results. And so that's something we're going to touch on later on because that's kind of a big topic, but that is one of the neat things about as we call it, leaving it to the kiln gods to do their thing, because you're going to get different variables, not only where you put the glazes, not only how heavy your hand is when you're glazing, but also the placement of the kiln is going to determine the difference. So we talked about Winterwood and C-Note being stable unless they're touching something. So here is a beautiful mug. I think this mug is gorgeous. This is 2 coats of C-Note, and I glazed this part right here, okay? So 2 coats of C-Note with 2 coats of Winterwood right on top of it. And you can see what happened on the bottom. Glazed completely off. So this would not be a good thing. In fact, on the tutorial that I'm giving everybody that they can print out, it says, no, 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 don't do this. This is not a thing to do. But I wanted to show that it will run. And again, there's only 4 coats total on this piece, but look at how much it ran because these glazes are going to run. Some of these other pieces have actually 8 coats or more in one spot, kind of here at the top, but they're not running all the way down because they are more controlled at the top and we controlled the bottom part, so it wasn't going to be running.
Would you try this again on a taller piece?
Well, I have done this together a lot on taller pieces, and I do really like it a lot. I just wanted to show that running off. But what I have done in the past is, let's say I had a tall vase and I did C-Note on the bottom. Let's say the vase was about this tall. I would do C-Note all the way up, but I would only start the Winterwood about 1/3 or 1/2 up, just depending on how tall that piece is. So the bottom was only C-Note, but on the top was the combo. So that's something you can play around with, kind of like this, how the bottom is eggplant and then the top is a combo. Now, go ahead. You have a question?
Yes. Did you notice anything about how it changed on which color clay you're using, the lighter clay versus the darker clay?
So it's a really good question, because every clay body is going to make a difference on it too. And this one in particular is Speckled Brownstone by Highwater Clays. And you're going to see these little speckles in it. Those are manganese speckles. And they sometimes will, they're not so friendly with some of the glazes that go on top of them. And you can see how we have some pitting here. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that makes a difference. The gases from the clay body have to gas off, and they have to go through the glazes. And if there's not enough room basically in the glazes, they're going to make a pit or a hole that the gases have to come through. And so that does make a difference with the type of clay. So that's one thing that can make a difference, is how is the glaze going to react. But the second thing is the color. And so here's another darker one where you see the Winterwood on the bottom, and it's a darker clay, but this is a whiter clay. And there's the Winterwood on the bottom of that too. So you can kind of see that there is some a little bit darkness under there. I mean, they're both kind of dark and drippy, but you do get to see a bit of a difference when the clay is different color. And one of the things that you can tell, so this is a combo of clays. This is a desert buff and speckled brownstone marbled together. And this has C note on the bottom and Mako indigo float on the top. And I'm trying to think if I have another, I guess this would be, there's the C note right here. So this is desert buff by itself. And you can kind of see that down here in this bottom area, it really doesn't have much color. The color has kind of burned out, but here you get a little bit of a darkness. So the body color does make a difference. I will tell you that this color probably burned out a little bit because I only did maybe one coat or some light coat at the bottom since it was so close to the base. So yeah, so not only does the color of the clay body make a difference, but the composition of the clay body is going to make a difference for how the glazes react on its surface. And the best thing is just explore, experiment, keep notes. I'm constantly preaching, keep notes of what you do so that you start to learn how glazes react and how they're going to respond to each other.
Speaking of notes.
Let's
segue.
Very good.
Into your
Imagine
pottery.
that.
Just happen to have this in here. The Pottery Student Art Journal.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, what is this?
Yeah, what is that? Yes. So, as a pottery teacher for decades, I have always preached to my students to keep track. And I have a certain way of showing people how to keep track of their glazes so that they can see layers and how they're layering things. And this book actually shows that. And it gives them their own open spaces to not only write down the combination of glazes that they use, a little piece where they can put a drawing, like say we did Winterwood on the bottom third, and then we did stone denim on that middle third, and then up here we did, light flux, and it's going to tell, and you can write how many coats of each. But there's also sections over here for you to take pictures of it in progress and for you to make notes on your research, basically, because we're all pottery students. Even me, I've been doing this since I was 4. I know that doesn't seem very long, but it really just a little bit. I'm still learning. I'm always learning, and there's an infinite number of combinations. And so what this journal does is not only allow you to keep track of the glazes that you use, the manner in which you use them, the number of layers, but also there's parts at the bottom, I think, that say your reflections. It's a way that you can make extra notes. You keep track of the clay type that you've used. And then we have pages, blank pages in there. And on mine, and mine is a mess because, I'm teaching from mine all the time, and I have multiples of these going on. But and this might not even be one. On one of the books that I have at home, on those plain note pages, I have all kinds of combination ideas that I have just written down. But and I don't put pictures of mine anymore because I know exactly what it looks like just because I've been doing this for so long. But you can see I do use mine quite a bit, and I write a lot out. Yours, if you look at Diana's, hers is very nice and neat and legible. Here's one that shows, this is one of our plain note ones, and this is, we don't want to talk about these. These are glazes that just bombed, honestly. I don't like them at all. But at least I have it written down here so that I won't use them again. But yeah, that's you know what? That's almost even more important than keeping track of the ones that work, is to keep track of the ones that fail and look ugly, or for some reason they shiver, they come off the piece, they have problems on the piece. That's really important to know. And so that's what I have on those notes too. But I created this because over years and years and years of working with students, this has been the best technique for people to not only keep track of what they're doing, but learn from what they're doing, because we're all about education.
Yeah, and I do treat mine like an art journal, so I do put a lot of reflections in it and a little bit of memory keeping in there. And but most importantly, I'm writing down the glazes I'm using and what I liked and what I didn't like a lot of times, or at least even if I don't. I tend not to write what I don't like. I'll try to write. I try not to be negative about it. Just for when I look back, that I always feel positive about whatever I was doing. So I'll try to write what I was learning, but I'll put little symbols in there so that I know whether, how much I liked it, or how happy I was, stuff like that.
And so there's the difference between us, because on mine I will put, it'll come out of the kiln and I'll write in my book ugly in big capital letters. But I need that because I'm teaching it too. And so I want to make sure that I'm always setting my students up for the most success possible. And like I said, I've been doing this for so many years. I know I'm going to have ugly pieces. I know I'm going to have fails. And if I wasn't still having ugly pieces or failed pieces, then I shouldn't be teaching anymore, because that means I'm not pushing the envelope anymore. And so there's so much growth that comes from mistakes as well as successes. And yes, I want you to be as positive as you can. And so you look through your journal and be happy and go down that road. I'm going to shoulder the ugly ones, and not that you don't have your own.
In there. They're just subtle. I try not. So if somebody else opens it and they think it's really, they're like,
Yeah.
My sister looks at my journal a lot, and if it's a piece she complimented me on, I want her to know, I hated this thing. So nobody really gets to see yours, which
Well, and they laugh at me because we'll pull something out of the kiln that I did a test piece on, and they're so excited because they're going to get to see it in class. I'm like, no, that is ugly. I'm not bringing that up to class. And they're like, what? And I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted to show. And so, but it, again, it's very subjective as well.
Yeah, it is.
I'm looking at more technical aspects of it too, that I want those technical aspects to be clearly shown so that you can learn from them. And I think these examples are really done. I just got these out of the kiln myself, not these, because I've been eating out of these for ages. But these just came out of the kiln yesterday because I wanted a specific learning, episode basically for my students. And they all worked out great. And I really do love the idea that some dripped, and I had a student one time that said to me, I showed them, we have a shelf of misfit pieces, just kind of like in the one of those Christmas movies where they have the island of misfit toys. We have the shelf of misfit pieces, and 50% of those pieces are mine. And I said that to a student one time, and she's like, gosh, I thought everything you did was perfect. I'm like, no, not at all. Not at all. It's all about the learning. It's all about pushing the envelope. So that's really fun.
Yeah, what was interesting about, I happened to come in while you were unloading the kiln yesterday, and at first, you're a purple person, but I am a pink person. So these raspberry mists caught my eye,
Which I don't really like very much.
But immediately I was
serves
like,
the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But immediately I was like, ooh, there's pink, and you don't do pink. So then I was super excited about that. Yeah. But then the more I looked at them, I'm drawn to this with the C note. I mean, obviously I love Winterwood, but the C note and this purple, I would love to see for my own experimenting on a bigger piece with more of a drip and see how much more of that purple I could pull out.
And that's kind of like the one that's beside it, that's the eggplant.
Yeah.
So, because it's done almost in the same recipe, but but the bottom color has changed, and that's
Right.
why, like, we have 30 different colors you could put in the bottom, and it would be 30 different results.
Yeah, and putting them side by side, you can see, here some more of that raspberry mist is peeking through. We're here, you said eggplant?
Yeah, that's eggplant, and also that has a band of mulberry on it above the eggplant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
And
can see that peeking through too.
Right. So if I was doing a collection, I was doing raspberry mist. I do use raspberry mist a lot in a combination with other things.
Yeah.
I would have put some mulberry with it and pulled out more of the purples.
But then the more I looked at them, this is the one, these two were just making me, like,
Yeah.
I was just in
Yeah.
awe of these. I just thought these combos were so beautiful. But that's the joy of sharing
Right.
the combos, but to your point, I could try this and I've got to be prepared that it may look completely different.
Exactly. And, and that's how we learn. So just by having, a variety of things that we can look at and analyze and decide, do I want to repeat that? How do I change this next time? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about that, let me talk to you about what we're doing in membership next month. And I'm just going to talk about week 1 because I have a couple samples right here.
Here, while you do that, I'm going to set these aside.
Okay. So one of the things that we talk about this time of year is, and really any time of year, it's how we kind of gift ourselves pieces as well as gift other people. So a lot of times people are coming in and they're making things that are for other people and they don't really think about making something for themselves. And so we always try to, I try to teach some things that they can make for a gift, but also enjoy themselves. And so we're doing a tripod mug in week 1 of next month. And so this is a tripod mug. So just like it said, there's 3 little legs that it sits on. This is our cannabis leaf texture that we got from Vermont Pottery Works. Vermont Pottery Works makes great textures. And this is just a fun mug. We can't make paraphernalia that you can use to enjoy a little bit of puff puff, but we can definitely use the leaves and the textures and have some fun. And it's actually been really fun to see our members break out of their shell and enjoy that a little bit. And I'm glad that we can offer those textures. But the fun part is this tripod mug. I love the way that a tripod mug kind of raises the body of the mug. I call this a Bombay belly on it. So we're going to be talking about all of that. Normally I would be throwing something like this on the wheel, but this is a hand-built piece with the textures. And so it's really fun to show how we can hand build something like we can make a similar thing on the wheel. And I always define wheel throwing versus hand building in the way that wheel throwing is a little bit more precise, or at least this is how I describe mine. When I'm throwing on the wheel, it's a little bit more precise, it's more formed, even though I do alter my pieces on the wheel a lot. But when I hand build, I want them to be wonky and earthy and whimsical, because that's just kind of my style. I want there to be a difference. The neat thing about the tripod is that it doesn't just have to be on a mug. And this little dude over here looks like he has been enjoying the high life a bit. And he's holding this little air plant.
He's a studio favorite.
He is a studio favorite. I could have sold him a gazillion times, no kidding, and I will not sell him. Yeah, so if you hold the plant. But he's also a tripod mug without a mug handle. And so I made him years ago. He's a slab piece, and I just decided, he looked really great with this funky little trunk and some big ears and the little curly tail back here. And interestingly enough, he has Winterwood on his ears. And some raspberry mist, and that's where you can see that kind of dripping down. And this is actually some Norse blue that we were talking about. That's the base of C Note. There's some Norse blue on here, but I kind of sponged some of it off to get a little bit of a lighter shade. But this is what I am teaching, this tripod mug, week 1 of October. But this is an alteration or a variation of it. And what I'm always so excited with our students is to see how they vary what they learn and into kind of wild things.
Yes, I'm excited to see what everybody's going to create.
Yeah, so it's really fun. Our students don't actually have to do the lesson that I teach. They can do their own thing. It doesn't even have to be even close to what I'm teaching, but a lot of students do want that learning, and so not only will they learn how to make a tripod mug that's textured, and we'll talk about glazing and all of that, but they could take it and make kind of an animated or a fun thing with it. And that's a really fun gift to give away, but it's also a fun thing to keep. He had a very special place in my house before I brought him here, and so he's really fun. The other thing that we're going to be talking about that this mug comes in handy for next month is, again, glazing. So once a month I try to give a little bit of a glazing tutorial, because glazing, again, is its own rabbit hole, basically. And this piece in particular, I glazed and then I rubbed the glaze off so that that natural clay would come through on these cannabis leaves, and that would show a little bit more. And then there's actually some winterwood dripping off the top. So we brought winterwood in a lot like that too. But we're going to talk about distressing our glazes, as well as doing an ombre glazing of the tripod mug. So we have a lot to look forward to, and we'll share more of that when we get more samples done. And yeah, we're excited that these are gifts to give or to keep.
Yes, definitely. Should be a good month.
Yes. So thanks for tuning in to the Pottery Student Podcast by Marvelous Mud Pottery Studio. And we are located in Lakeland, Florida, sunny Lakeland, Florida. So please visit our website at marvelousmudpotterystudio.com, and you can see all kinds of craziness that we do here, as well as we're really into the foundation of educating our students so that they can learn more about clay and really build their own skill set and their own appreciation, and create their own projects from it all. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.